Okay guys, so Barcelona have defeated Real Oviedo by 3-1, but it was actually far from simple. And to understand exactly how it all went down, we are going to analyse this game in two halves. One half was characterised by mistakes and lack of cohesion, and the other by some genius tactical recovery from Flick and some standout individual performances. Now, going into this match, Barcelona and Real Oviedo had met a total of 4 times, and guess what? They each had equal amount of wins. But obviously, Oviedo hadn't been in the Spanish top flight for 24 years and have only managed 1 win in the last 5 matches this season. So we Barcelona fans were pretty confident going into the game. Now, to dissect this match properly, I want to start with the lineups. Now, Barca went with the traditional 4-3-3, which looked a bit like a 4-2-3-1. We had Joan Garcia in goal. Gerard Martin kept his place in the left-back position, with Eric Garcia chosen ahead of Koundé on the right. And I was really glad to see Pau Kubasi back from injury and partnering up with Araujo in central defence. Now, I'm guessing that Araujo was preferred over Christensen because of the physicality that this match needed. Now, in midfield, we had Pedri and Dani Olmo, and Frankie de Jong was given a rest in favour of Casado. In attack, however, Flick decided to start with Rafinha, Marcus Rashford, and he went with Ferran Torres ahead of Lewandowski. But as expected, Real Oviedo started with a 4-4-2 that seemed a bit like a 4-4-1-1, with Santi Cazorla starting just behind Rondon. Now, the idea behind this formation was to starve the Barcelona midfield. So what they did was they had 4 defenders sitting really low, and then right in front of them were 2 defensive midfielders. So that's like 6 defenders now. And then they had 3 other midfielders in front and then 1 top striker. So what this meant was Oviedo were able to cut off the link between our midfielders and our attackers. It's almost like they split the team into 2. It was Rashford, Rafinha and Ferran Torres, and then we had Dani Olmo, Casado and Pedri. Now, this affected us because we didn't have enough control in the midfield. The intensity and physicality that Oviedo were coming with meant that Dani Olmo and Casado couldn't operate. I feel like they were a bit clumsy in possession. I feel like they weren't really holding on to the ball, and that meant that Pedri was having to cover up a lot of ground. And remember, in attack, we had Gerard Martin acting as the left winger, so Pedri will always have to drop back to cover for him as well. So I felt like Pedri was doing too much work in that midfield, and he wasn't really getting enough support from Dani Olmo and Casado. Now, in attack, Oviedo were adopting a very interesting strategy, and that is called the overload. You see, I told you that teams have spotted that we have a weakness in our left-back position. So what they did was, when they were going on the attack, they will overload that position with a lot of players, which would then force Barcelona to make an error. And that's exactly what led to the first goal. But we'll get to that in a bit. You see, when you do the overload, what that does is that it gives the opposing team the ability to hit you on the counter. But like I said, because Dani Olmo and Casado were not really offering us enough of an outlet in midfield, we couldn't capitalise on the counter attacks. We got a couple of opportunities, but we just weren't able to move the ball well enough in transition to cause Oviedo enough problems. And we did create a few chances, to be fair. Rashford had a few shots saved by the goalkeeper. Rafinha had a shot that came off the post as well, but we didn't really create any clear-cut opportunities, which I thought was a bit of a shame, but I knew that we needed to change something in that midfield. Now, remember I said it was the overload strategy that helped Oviedo get the first goal. Let's take a look, because Joan Garcia makes his first big blunder in a Barcelona shirt. It was actually a harmless ball in the air. Now look, as soon as that ball is played over the top, it's off his line, which I do applaud because obviously he's our sweeper keeper. But then when he gets to the ball, he doesn't connect with the ball properly. Look, he doesn't trap the ball properly and he doesn't clear the ball either. So then this puts him in a difficult position, but he was able to recover. Look, and he got past Rondon only to get to the touchline. And for some reason, he decides to turn to his right. Just clear the ball. This is like basic football. If you're a goalkeeper and then you have the ball outside your box, clear the ball. Clear it into touch and then give your team some time to regroup. But he doesn't do that. He comes inside. And again, that's where that tiki-taka football can be a bit of a risk sometimes, especially with goalkeepers. Because if you remember, in the 2018 World Cup, this was the same mistake that Manuel Neuer made that cost Germany against Korea. And that's what Joan Garcia has done on this occasion, because look, as soon as he looks up, he tries to give the ball to Casado. But what seemed like an easy decision became an overhit pass. And that's because you're a goalkeeper, you're not a player. So as soon as he gives that pass, look, he understands he's made a mistake, but he's not able to get there in time because Reina was smart enough to play that ball over the top straight away. Look, he plays it over the top. And then look, that ball just goes straight into the net. And I'm like, oh my God, can this match get any worse? Like, it's already been a difficult match and then this happens. But to be fair, we didn't let our heads drop. I think like we did carry ourselves well. We were really trying to pile on that pressure, but things weren't really working out. And it was obvious that we needed to change something. And speaking of changing something, that takes me to the next phase. And in this next phase, I want you to pay attention to 4 key figures that Flick used to turn this game around. So Barcelona ended the half in desperate need for a way back, and in that desperation, Flick made the first vital decision of the night, and that was taking off Casado and bringing on key figure number 1, and that was Frankie de Jong. Guys, as soon as Frankie came on, it was like Barcelona hit factory reset, because look what he did to our formation first of all. So Frankie coming in meant that Pedri, who's key figure number 2, could then play in an advanced position, and boy, them two were amazing tonight. So Pedri was able to move a bit forward to go and support with the attack. But that is not even the trick. So remember we said that Gerard Martin was playing as a left winger going forward in attack. And in the first half, that meant that Kubasi and Pedri would be on hand to support in that left wing in case of a counter-attack. Now this time, Pedri moved over to the right and Frankie de Jong then had to slot into the left of midfield to then take his place to cover for Gerard Martin when he went forward. So we sort of moved things around but maintained the same shape. Now you could immediately see how effective this was because we not only regained full control of the midfield but were able to then force Oviedo into a complete low block. Like they had almost the entire team behind the ball. We're moving the ball around a bit quicker, we're starting to find spaces, and within the first 10 minutes of the restart, it paid off because in the 55th minute, Barcelona drew level from 2 yards courtesy of Eric Garcia. But let's analyse the goal, and to do that, I'm going to introduce my third key figure, and that is Ronald Araujo. Now guys, not only was Araujo solid at the back, making sure that Rondo and Sebo didn't get a single shot all night. Look at this take on for the equaliser. Look how he takes that defender on. It's the determination, the bravery to take on that player and cross that ball with his left foot. Ferran Torres does excellently well and Garcia finishes off nicely. But again, it's all about that pressure and being able to peg them back to the point that we had enough bodies in the box. Because look at when Araujo gets that ball as he's about to make the run. Look how many players that we've got in the box. 6 players. We didn't have a lot of this in the first half, guys. We weren't able to get forward in numbers. And that was because our team was isolated from defense to midfield to attack. But Eric Garcia was really alert. And I'll talk about Eric Garcia in a bit. But was really alert to be the first to get to that ball and make sure that he puts it in the back of the net. So really good goal from Barcelona. But it didn't just end there, guys. Flick pulled out another tactical gem because minutes later, he took off Rafinha and brought in my 4th and final key figure, and that was Robert Lewandowski. And all of a sudden, remember the double centre forward that we spoke about in the game against Getafe? And straight away it worked because in the 69th minute, Lewandowski put us ahead with an astonishing header. Now, I want you to take a look at this. As soon as Frankie de Jong is on the ball, I want you to look at the box. So we've got in and around the box, we've got Dani Olmo, Lewandowski and Ferran Torres. Now, look at Ferran Torres' movement. He's moving outside of the box. He's moving away from the danger. This is well planned. As he's doing that, he's also taking the defender along with him. Look. Now, that defender is sort of focused on Ferran Torres. And also, look at the other defender. He's sort of going with Dani Olmo as well. Now, when Frankie de Jong is about to put that pass in, that's when they start to realise that there's danger. But at that time, the ball is too quick. It's already found Lewandowski, but now he's alone with Bailey. Look, he's alone with Bailey because the other defender is trying to track back, but he doesn't get there in time. So it's just Lewandowski against Bailey, and we know who's winning that battle all day long. But still, he had a lot of work to do in terms of directing that ball on target, and was also able to generate enough power on it as well. And that ball went off the crossbar and straight into the net. But again, that's that decoy run from Ferran Torres that takes that defender away and clears the path for Lewandowski to be isolated against Bailey. So Flick adopting the same tactics that he used against Getafe tonight. But that wasn't all, guys. Araujo was going to round up a brilliant performance with an amazing header for the 3rd goal. But I want you to notice something. I want you to look at the movement of Lewandowski for this goal. Now, as the corner's about to be played in by Rashford, look at Lewandowski. He's outside again because he knows that the defenders believe that he's the danger man. So he steps away from the action. Now, that defender's got his eyes on Lewandowski. Look how many defenders are looking at Lewandowski. Look, Bailey's even pointing towards Lewandowski, saying, go and get him, because they believe that Lewandowski is the danger man. But Lewandowski has no intention. Like, this is all rehearsed. He has no intention of heading that ball. Now, look at what Lewandowski does. As soon as that ball's about to be played, he starts running to the near post. Now, this is intentional to drag the defender away. Remember, this is what he did against Getafe that allowed Dani Olmo to score the third goal. And look, he's done it again. He's dragged that defender. And look, they've got their eyes on Lewandowski. Look, they're still pointing at Lewandowski. So now, that leaves Araujo isolated again. And as soon as that ball gets to him, he's able to direct it straight into the bottom corner. Amazing, amazing. But that again highlights the importance of having Lewandowski and Ferran Torres in this team at the same time. It's that double centre forward. Because every time teams come with that low block, Lewandowski is always on hand to give us an additional option. And that's exactly what he's done again tonight. And that's why he's my fourth and final key figure of the match tonight. Now, my honourable mention for tonight's game is none other than Eric Garcia. Now, guys, they actually gave him the player of the match, but I thought it was Pedri. I thought Pedri was astonishing today. I thought that from the get-go till he left the pitch, he was just brilliant. Now, I'm not going to sit here and talk about Pedri all night, but I thought Pedri deserved the man of the match. However, Eric Garcia's contribution tonight can't be overstated because he started off on the right and again finished on the left like in the match against Getafe. But that wasn't it. He still got us the goal that got us back in the game. So I feel like Eric Garcia is a real asset to this Flick system. But like I said in the beginning, guys, this was a game of two halves. We didn't have the best first half performance, but we were able to recover in the second half thanks to Hansi Flick making those changes early on and also some brilliant performances by some key players tonight. But it's not just about what I think. I really want to hear from you guys. What do you think of my breakdown? What did I miss? Do you agree with some of the performances I highlighted? And what did you think of Flick's selection tonight? Let me know in the comment section. I'm really enjoying chatting with you guys and thank you for the amazing support. I can't thank you guys enough. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so as it really does help the channel grow and ensures that I'm able to keep making videos like this for you. So see you soon, guys, and Visca El Barça.